Well, this is one that I've been looking forward to for a long time. Today we have the pleasure of talking to the mayor of the city of Franklin, Brent Centers, who is a busy guy, but he has agreed to take some time out to talk to us today about some of the common questions that you have and some of the things that's coming in Franklin's future. Brent, thanks for being here, man.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Now, my first... When I first knew of you, we went to high school together,
Yeah.
and I think you had my mom in English class.
I did.
Did you do the honors English, or was it?
For those of you that know me, I didn't do honors English.
You didn't do the honors English.
No, but I did have her in class. It was awesome.
Well, that's one of the things that I really love about you, Brent. And, you know, when I talked to Jonathan Westendorf, is that the people who are in leadership positions in Franklin have a genuine love and appreciation for the city of Franklin. What keeps you here? What draws you to these positions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody that serves the community largely was born and raised in Franklin or long tenured residents of Franklin. Yeah. I mean, this is home. You know, I've served our country in the Air Force and traveling all over the world. I always get to come back home to Franklin. And so being able to give back by serving on council and mayor, it's just wonderful.
Yeah, I had made mention of that before about how truly special a lot of the people who go to Franklin are, but unfortunately a large portion of them seek to build a life elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But I'm starting to see some trickling back into town. Have you seen that? We have.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of people move back home to Franklin. There was a long stretch of time where there wasn't a lot of development, and people were moving to those areas that did have increase in economic development, economic vitality in their downtown, and as I'm sure we'll get into, we're bringing that back, and it's been the last 10 plus years in the works to get here. And another thing we're seeing is seniors leaving because we don't have senior housing. So that's another thing we'll definitely want to discuss today.
Yeah, and so since we're going there, let's just go right to it. As mayor, what are your three main priorities, like on a daily basis? What takes up most of your time?
Top three priorities are always safety. Our citizen safety is always top priority. Our infrastructure, not that fun of a topic, but if you do that wrong, that's very impactful in a negative way. It's extremely impactful in a positive way if you get it right. Yeah. And economic development. That's been the three main priorities. That's driven many of the decisions of our council, and that continues to remain our top three priorities.
Yeah, and I've seen that, and I know there's been back and forth about the downtown area. But in my own experience, I feel like it's been a wild success. And in speaking to a lot of the residents who've been here for a long time, I think one of the things that many people who complain about it don't realize is that that's the way it used to be, right?
The two-way street, or in general?
The two-way street.
Yeah, it was, before my time, it was a two-way street. It worked very well. It went to one-way for specific reasons with River and Main. And now everything we study and all the traffic impact studies, it's changing it back to two-way is going to be a safer means of travel. It's also going to get more people through the downtown. You don't want people to have to cut down River or Riley and remove themselves from traveling through your brand new downtown.
We've seen an increase in interest downtown for businesses. What's been your experience with that?
Absolutely. So it's important to know that this downtown wasn't a couple years ago. We had a great idea. Yeah. When I first was elected 10 years ago, this was a top priority, and we brought in what was known as Main Street, Ohio, and they came down and did a full assessment, a 2-day assessment of our downtown. We brought in community members. It was a public forum to anyone that wanted to show up. We held it at the fire station. That was 10 years ago, and the fire station was packed. What we said was, if you could redevelop your downtown, what would you want? And the sky's the limit. I'm very much a realist. Jonathan Westendorf is very much a visionary, and our council is made up of every range in between. Yeah. And so we had people, we had one lady write on our postcard, and she said, I want catenary lighting strung across downtown.
Great idea.
Great idea.
Yeah.
To me, I thought, oh, that's impossible. Yeah. I'm a realist.
Right.
And but that input is what led us to, well, let's see if this is possible. And one thing was, don't tear up Main Street without fixing the infrastructure underneath. That was already on our mind, but it was nice to know that it was important to the community members as well.
Yeah.
So doing all that, this was driven by the community. It was carried out by the direction of City Council, and then our city manager and staff absolutely ran with it more than we could have ever imagined.
Yeah, and that brings up kind of a compound question. You can deal with them individually if you want to, but something I planned to get into later, but I'll say it now, is how have you worked to try to incorporate the voice of the community into the work that you guys are doing? And on top of that, how do you kind of ensure kind of transparency, not only in what has been going on, like what's going on currently, but what the plans are for the future?
Yeah, I love this question because it's something that we all pride ourselves in, and that's council and staff. We continuously, of course, we have our public council meetings that are don't have high attendance.
Yeah, that's what we would encourage people who have frustrations, let's call it, to actually engage with the council members. But what we find oftentimes is that the council meetings are sparsely attended.
That's accurate. So first and third Monday, 6 o'clock of every month, we have our open public council meetings. They're rarely attended. When they are, if somebody usually has an issue, which that's what we're here to serve them.
Right.
That said, because they're lower attendance, we have public forums and town halls on any major topic. From back even when we closed the community pool for COVID, which every community in the essentially the world did, we still had 3 different town halls to make sure, virtual, with me and the city manager, to say, hey, if you have an issue, an input, concern, let us know. And people logged in. So even going back there, we are always having town halls. Downtown, we visited every business owner, personally visited either myself and the city manager or the city manager, and then continuously throughout the project to make sure their needs were met, along with holding town halls. We held one at the high school that was a couple hundred people showed up to, and just walked through, here's the whole plan, here's the inconvenience that will be there, and walking through that. Answering questions, providing clarity. People thought because we're getting a new downtown, are you raising our taxes? Not at all. We actually applied through a lot of grants to get a lot of the funding. But just being able to provide those town halls, those open public forums, so people can get clarity and ask their questions or provide their concern. We work with the people.
Yeah. So that's how you incorporate the voice. Is that you're saying also the way that you kind of encourage transparency about the process, like the sausage making, I guess?
Correct. That's our effort to make sure people are part of the process. Then to just push information, our city website, we continuously update that with new information. Not a lot of people go to the website, we know that and we track that. Social media, our platforms, I know your platform's a very positive platform that's pushing information as well. We're always pushing information out that way. We created the newsletter. Now that's going out quarterly, so that's updating everyone. We have the Civic app. You can go on the website and punch your phone number into it, and you can select, I want to know when new legislation's passed, or I want to know if legislation and if there's anything about the parks, or I don't care about any of that. All I want to know is special events. When are we having parade? You can hand select what you want notified of, and it's a text message directly to you.
Very useful.
It's very useful and it's very popular.
Yeah.
We have had a pretty big increase of users on that.
What do you see happening in the next 5 years as you continue to try to build on some of the successes that we have thus far?
Yeah, so building off of our downtown, one, we want to make it very clear we're not singularly focused on downtown. We're the entire city development. We've increased so much with our parks, park expansion, our infrastructure. I mentioned downtown, but also expanding lift stations for greater capacity. We have new water tower in the community park. We're looking at residential expansion with 2 new subdivisions we're looking at. So there's a growth across the entire community. Sticking with the infrastructure to support the downtown is the continuing to resurface 73 all the way up to the interstate, along with the 123 roundabout. That's going to be development driven from the new high school, but very necessary. That new roundabout is going to be as inconvenient as our downtown was for drivers in downtown. It's going to be that inconvenient for 123, but after that temporary inconvenience, the ease of traffic through there, the ease of getting semi-trucks through there to our industrial parks, getting the high school students in and out during those 2 peak times of the day, releasing after a football game, all that gets alleviated. So
I remember that. I remember having to get out after the football games. It was a nightmare.
It was, and it increased police, special detail, all those rates had to go. So all of that's going to be alleviated. There will be a temporary inconvenience, and if people can be patient through that, the outcome will be positive.
Well, that's great, because it brings up another point that we wanted to touch on today, which is affordable housing. You hear so many people who have issues with some of the ways that things are going, and they think that more effort should be spent on bringing in more affordable housing.
So we do have affordable housing in the city, and quite frankly, we're one of the most popular spots for affordable housing in Warren County.
Sure.
We have Section 8 housing. It's been for 20 plus years we've had Section 8, and a lot of them are the same residents. Some of them continue to move in and out, and that Section 8 housing works. We don't have any intentions of bringing in new low-income housing or Section 8 housing. Yeah. However, we do have full intentions and plans to bring in new subdivisions. So those new subdivisions will be at an affordable rate at the current market rate, and what it'll do to the existing subdivisions, as people move out of those into the new subdivisions or bring new residents into town, it just makes the existing subdivisions more affordable.
Yeah. With that in mind, kind of going off of that, I mean, to be honest with you, this question has come up, but I don't really see a lot of it, and I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but how's the issue with the homelessness problem? Do we have a big problem there, and if so, or if not, to whatever extent it exists, is there anything that the city is trying to do to help with that?
Yeah, we do have a homeless population. I don't want to say it's a problem, I don't want to say it's a concern. We have a homeless population. That population's dramatically decreased based on our efforts, but that population, there is a small population that still exists, and we address it. By addressing it, I don't mean we displace people. Right. We don't do any of that. What we do is find resources for people in need. What we found, and we've worked on for the past decade, is initial wave of when we were addressing the homeless issue was we found a lot of them had chemical addictions, and we worked tirelessly to make sure that we have resources for them. We have the HOPE program that our
Hope House,
our HOPE program has had so many successes. We've teamed with Sojourner, which is a recovery agency. We've moved our Talbert house from the interstate, if you remember it was out on Conover, to downtown where the hub of the issue is, to where we can get them into proper resources. So what we do is get people help they need so they can get out of that state and back into a productive member of society, and we've dropped the homeless rate in our city dramatically.
Yeah, I can speak personally on that issue. I've had my own issues with substance abuse, and as a result of kind of going through that process myself, I've worked with other people who are struggling with that issue. And I know that a few years back, there was somebody I was working with that was able to get into the HOPE program, and I know that they benefited greatly from it, and to this day, based upon that and other efforts, are still living a clean and productive life.
Good.
So
I love that. That's the goal.
It's the truth. It's really the truth. One of the things that brings up oftentimes is crime rates. How is the city of Franklin dealing with the crime issue? To what extent do we have a problem with crime? And then what are they doing to try to increase the safety of the community to the extent that safety is a problem?
Yeah. Number one priority is safety. I mentioned it at the beginning of this discussion. We have, going off of our homeless issue and talking about chemical addictions, that was definitely an aspect of crime in our community. People with chemical addictions, we knew where they were housed, we knew some crimes they were committing, and we've attacked that dramatically. We were 17%, this was 5+ years ago, 17% of all Warren County overdoses happened in the city of Franklin. Now we're in the single digits.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, and it's because of good work that the city's doing. And surrounding agencies and people giving back and being part of it. So that alone has addressed some of the crime. The other parts of the crime, drug dealers coming into our community from outside cities, we've been very aggressive with that. We have a police chief that is absolutely aggressive on drug crime and on any crime in the city of Franklin. We have sting operations where they've heard, I won't meet you in the city of Franklin, meet me X. And they'll name a different location because they're not willing to come into the city to deal drugs anymore. Yeah. Now, the crime still is here. We are still working on it. We recently shifted from the police shifts of 3 shifts per day down to 2 12-hour shifts. And that was able to put more boots on the ground per shift. So we've increased police, have a wonderful police chief, right-sized the department on the ranks and number of detectives, and really restructured, not a full restructure, but just enough restructuring to make it an extremely efficient division. I also want to say on the safety side, not just crime, but our Division of Fire and EMS is going out there constantly with preventative measures on drug use, alcohol use, preventative fires, education and advocacy through all of our school district. So there's a lot of preventative measures as well on both fire and police.
Speaking about the fire and EMS, we just had a town hall the other week over at the fire station, and one of the other issues, like you said, it was sparsely attended, and one of the issues that may come up as a result of that, because it's always an issue, is tax increases. Right. How do you strike the balance between funding a growing city and the infrastructure that takes, increasing or maintaining the safety and security of the residents of that city, while also having to deal with all the backlash about the new tax increases?
Yeah, so the city of Franklin hasn't increased taxes in the 10 years that I've been here. And to answer your question directly, the way we're able to do that is through being true stewards of their tax dollars. We have, as property tax increases through the auditor's office, that is revenue into the city. That's just like a cost of living increase at an employer. What it doesn't take into effect is levy funds. That's more what I... So levy funds, for instance, our fire levy, we ran 13 years ago and said it will be a 10-year levy. This was before my time on council, but they ran it as a 10-year levy. 13 years later, still using those same levy funds, that shows a good fiduciary responsibility of the council, prior city manager, current city manager, everyone being very prudent with the tax dollars. Yeah. So with that, 13 years later, there is a need. And a question I often get is, why don't you bring in economic development to offset that need? The answer is, we've brought in a lot of economic development that will be included in this next levy, whenever that is. We could pass a levy and the next day bring in $1 billion corporation. It doesn't affect that levy. Mm-hmm. The same dollars, what it does is decreases the amount each resident pays, but the same dollar amount comes into the city even if 30 years later, the same dollar amount. So economic development only gets applied to a new levy. That being said, there is a new levy pending. The Fire and EMS division requires an updated amount of funding. Right. And with, just like we talked about, cost of living at work, 13 years ago with no increases and no tax increases from the city, that conversation is being brought back around for a fire levy. With that, we've had 3 town halls. We accommodated 2 different evenings and then a weekend morning to make sure we could catch anybody that had a different work schedule. Yeah. And there were not much attendance. Yeah. So we're trying to do everything we can to get input on, hey, here are our needs. What's palatable? What can you afford? We know times have been tough, and get feedback before making a decision.
I know one of the things that surprised me was when, and I brought this up in the town hall, was when you break down the cost on the individual, I think it was something like 39 cents or something like that. It was in the cents about how it would actually affect each individual. And I think so many people, to your point, just don't take the time to research the issue and educate themselves on what the actual implications are. They just see that there's a new levy, which means they're going to be paying more, but to the degree that it actually matters, it will barely be felt, if what I'm recalling is accurate.
It is accurate. And that's why we continue to put out these town halls, these open forums, these open houses at the fire station, to get people out to explain, here are the needs, here's what a mill means. If you see 5 mills on a ballot, people might think 5 million, they might think, well, 5, anything sounds like a lot. What it brings in is, 5 mills is about 60 cents a day on a $200,000 house. And so what's that do? What's that do if we only use that money for capital projects? Is that a fire engine and 1 squad? Is that 3 new firefighters and their insurance? And breaking that down, and that's what these town halls are about, is to say, hey, here are all the needs, here's what 1 through 2, 5, all these different millage gets you, and what would you like to see? It's your services. We're just here to, as the vehicle, to put it on the ballot.
With all of what we discussed, I think one of the things that is one of the most critical issues in both directions is communication. In any good relationship, there has to be good communication. And from what I've heard, you guys have really gone out of your way to provide a lot of different venues for people to be heard and for them to be able to hear you. On top of that, is there any way that you're trying to collect input outside of all the various ways that you've already tried to collect input?
Yeah, we in fact put out surveys online. There are some people that everybody has an opinion. They don't want to show up to a meeting.
Right.
And some of our meetings are pretty boring anyway.
Yeah.
So we put out a survey for downtown, for instance. One of our surveys got over 300 responses of yes or no, check the box, but also provide feedback. And they were able to text in or write in their answers. So yeah, we're putting out online surveys. Some of those are on our City of Franklin Facebook page. Some of them are online, go through the Civic app. But yeah, surveys are a great way for people, one, to remain anonymous, but still get their opinion out.
Yeah.
And that's been really successful.
And where did this, maybe I missed it, where's the surveys issued from?
We pushed the most popular one we received was pushed out on our City of Franklin Facebook page.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you make it over to the Franklin Talk pages, but sometimes it's pretty brutal. So I would encourage, in a heartfelt way, honestly, the people who will often talk about their frustrations to seriously engage with some of these other ways that they can actually speak to people and hear from those people that they're critiquing.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
We get a lot of criticism via social media because it's easy to criticize on social media. That said, there's still people that we represent. So very often our city manager, Jonathan Westendorf, will write responses to, if there's criticism or legitimate criticism, I should say, write a response to make sure at least, even if this person's upset, they have the facts, because sometimes the facts aren't always accurate on those pages. When I respond, I always put my personal cell phone number. It's on my Facebook page, it's on my mayor page, it's on our website. I am out there. People reach out very often. They either email me or call my cell phone direct. I don't have a work phone. I have a personal cell phone, and I take every call.
And I think I know that to be true. I have called you on multiple occasions, and of course, if you're in the middle of something, you have to do what you got to do. But you're always quick to get back to me, and so I can vouch for that myself, that you're very accessible. So
appreciate that.
Anybody who has any frustrations that are not using all of these various ways to engage is frustrating on the other end of it. So with that out of the way, if you had to kind of put into a word or into a sentence how you feel about Franklin now, or where Franklin's headed to, how would you sum that up?
One word would probably be the word I receive the most in emails or texts from people around the community, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
It is an exciting time to be in Franklin.
I agree.
It's an exciting time to be a student in Franklin, coming through our school district and brand new high school.
Yeah.
renovated junior high, coming down into our brand new downtown. It's just an exciting time, and there's so many future plans still out there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time. It's been a great opportunity to sit and talk
Thanks
with
for
you.
having me.
Yeah, for sure. And we appreciate you guys sitting in on this. I hope it's been informative. I hope that you can use this information to better understand what's going on now in the city of Franklin, what the plans for the future are, and for those that have frustrations, how you can actually engage with city officials so that a more productive conversation can take place. Because whether you're on one side of the fence or the other, we all have passionate opinions about the city of Franklin, and the better we can communicate, the better Franklin will be in the future. So thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel to find out when we post next.